Now, to discuss this further, we are joined by Bombay High Court advocate Mrunalini Deshmukh. Mrunalini, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me over.
I would like to begin by asking you that the Indian Supreme Court has refused to legalize same-sex marriage in India, and it has stated that it does not have the power to do so, and that it is up to the Indian Parliament. While some may argue that it could be passing the buck, how do you view this ruling?
To be very honest, I think we need to understand what the Constitution is. And the Constitution has its own four pillars now, of course, which is the judiciary, the executive, and the legislation. So obviously making laws is a part of the legislation. The Supreme Court, the highest court, was very, very concerned and very conscious of the fact that they do not want to overreach or overstep what their domain is as per the Constitution of our country. That's point number one. Point number two is that today, but let's look at it in a little positive manner, and I would like to start. It was the same Supreme Court which decriminalized the offence which was under 377 in the IPC with regards to the LGBTQ things. That was the first step that was there. The second step was obviously the community was expecting the Supreme Court to give them the same rights which are available to others who are not queer and who do not belong to that group. And the Supreme Court has said that we will ensure as a court to ensure that there is safety, there is security, there is no harm done to you. There are certain things that may be granted to you, directions to the police. If you see the Chief Justice's direction, the whole list of which it was given, was also talking about giving rights and suggesting certain do's and don'ts as far as the queer community was concerned. We have to understand that we have come up from a step where they were hiding in the closets to now come out and ask for their rights, and now the courts are recognizing their rights. I think we are not too far off from that stage where we would have same-sex marriages. Speaking for me, I'm absolutely for it, because my queer friend is as much has got a right to lead a life under Article 21 of the Constitution, the way I have a right to lead my life, and in our own way, though our sexual orientations are completely different. Point number one. Point number two that we have to understand is that today, by not legalizing by not legalizing the marriages of the same sex, what the Supreme Court has said that this is something which is, we direct the center to form a committee, to take opinions, to take something and channelize this into a legislation, probably, but not saying into so many words, to enable them to get the same rights in black and white, as I say, in print, to be able for them to be able to exercise it. Now, even as far as adoptions are concerned, now that was one of the pleas that was taken by the petitioners who were canvassing for the same-sex marriages. The Supreme Court has played a very neutral role by saying that, the adoption, the CARA should consider the queer couples to be adopted, because otherwise there was a big no-no for any queer couples to adopt a child as per the CARA and the JJ, that is the Juvenile Justice Act, was concerned. So I would say it's a small step. We probably the community and people like me who believe in the same-sex marriages would have preferred the Supreme Court giving directions to the union to form a law appropriate, considering everything together. Probably they have not done that. That's where a little bit of despair is there. But I do see some light at the end of the tunnel. And we've made some steps with considering our country, our values, our societal norms, and some of these people who really come from a little archaic background. I think it's a small step, but towards a larger goal.
Sure, like you did mention that you do see light at the end of the tunnel. I would like to touch upon something that you mentioned, where you called it a neutral stand. I have a question to follow up on that. They have been given the right to adopt, the right to choose partners, but legalizing same-sex marriage is ruled out unanimously. I mean, I have a question, and the question is that, is this a nuanced stand or a regressive move for the LGBTQ movement in India?
So I think one of the judgments, and I'm not too sure which was there, that right to marriage is not a fundamental right. If you go to see in the Constitution, it is a customary thing. I mean, there's no law which says that you can marry. But if you want to get married, there are certain do's and don'ts in terms of your age, in terms of what other requirements are as far as a valid marriage is concerned. So if right to marriage is not a fundamental right, so to grant the queer couple the same sex because of the issues which arise would be something very difficult for the Supreme Court to do. But when they said that the right to marriage is not a fundamental right, right to life under Article 21 is a fundamental right, whether you are a queer or group or you belong to any other group. So in that, they have given some progressive steps with regards to adoption, with regards to, they want to have these, making somebody the nominee, having partners in terms of the bank accounts and other contractual obligations which are, or situations which are there. So I think they have tried to find a midway where they cannot overstep or overreach what their role is in the Constitution, but at the same time recognizing there is a great need and great urgency to give this community all its rights, all its recognition, everything that is required, because they have suffered a lot. They have suffered a lot. And all the judges have unanimously said it is not an urban elitist concept as the center was trying to put it. That was a completely wrong way of putting it. You don't have to be rich, you don't have to be educated, you don't have to be literate to be able to accept a person's sexual orientation has nothing to do with his financial or his educational qualifications. So that is something which the Supreme Court has said it in a very vehement manner, giving I think I would say a rather stern call to the center that please do not look at it from that point of view.
Sure.
So I think they have tried to strike a balance. That's how I could put it best.
Sure. Your view is that they have tried to strike a balance, a small step towards, but still there is a long way to go before we see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
but
you.
I think we'll be able to achieve that goal, and I'm with the community for all their rights. Sure. Absolutely.
Let's hope so. Thank you, Mrinalini. Thank you for joining us and taking your time out.